How's everybody doing? It's Friday. Hope everybody's gonna have a good weekend. As most of you know, I do a lot of calling classes. I do them all summer. Do them with Heartland Waterfowl. Do them with Rogers. Do them online. Thought I'd go over today what the biggest error that guys make. I guess, or I don't know if it's an error or just misconception on running a call. And this is the same for a duck call, goose call, speck call, whistle. It's about anything reeded that we use. The biggest mistake, the thing we have to correct the most. Most guys know to plant their tongue against the back of their bottom teeth and cut the note, arch their tongue. On a duck call, and a speck especially, goose call the same way, but you run your tongue different on a goose call. The biggest mistake guys make, I don't know if it's a mistake, because if you don't know, then you can't. It's hard to make a mistake. But is where their air comes from. Most guys run air from the back of their mouth out, and that makes the notes flat. There's just not enough volume of air to make the reed full if you're blowing from the top of your throat to the tip of your tongue. So that makes a flat note. The fullness, the rasp, and the ability to run more than like 5 notes comes out of your lungs. And it's a real hard thing to try to figure out the difference between air pressure and air volume. So, air pressure is the pressure that is built up inside your lungs that's not released. So if you'd imagine your lungs, and if you had a seal on the top of your lungs with like an air gauge, if you'd squeeze your lungs, the needle would go up. So you made pressure inside of that, inside of your lungs. The amount of air that comes out would be the volume. If you let a little bit of air come out, the reed would move a little. If you let a lot of air come out, the reed would move a lot. So, the best way I can explain air pressure is, I got 2 different ways you can try to feel it. One, if you take a big breath and then you cover your mouth up so no air can come out, and you push, you'll feel your diaphragm push on your lungs. That's the feeling of pressure. That's the same feeling you should get when you put air on a reed on a duck call. So, if you're puffy like that, you won't feel your body doing anything from here down, and that's a really hard way to run a duck call. It's really hard to get it full. So what most guys end up doing is they end up growling into the call to try to add rasp to it, which there's no growl. So the other way you can feel pressure is if you cough. So you will feel your diaphragm push up against your lungs, and that's pressure. Now you don't cough into the call, but the muscle group right here is going to activate the same way. So almost any time you see somebody that can run a call well, the first thing they're going to do before they run a call is they're going to raise their chest up. So they're getting ready to take their diaphragm and make it active and push on their lungs. So if you take your hand, like I said, cover your mouth, and then try to blow like as hard as you can. If you try to blow out of your mouth, your cheeks will puff out, which is no good. That's air from right here to here. What you want is you want to feel your diaphragm and your lungs move. So that's pressure. And that's the same pressure you put on a reed. So if I run a call, you see it's the same exact thing. So that is one of the most, besides tongue position, that is the most critical thing to learn to blow a duck call, is how to put pressure on. That's what I always say, like blow from your belly, not from your mouth. But that's kind of a weird way to say it. Like I say, what you're doing is you are taking the air in your lungs and you're putting it on the reed, but you're not dumping it all at once. It's a controlled push. If you've never done it and you start doing it, it'll feel like you've been doing sit-ups because you're making all those muscles move. Like I said, the other way you can feel it is if you cough. And the reason that's the same feeling is because when you're sick and you got stuff in your lungs and you cough, it's your body trying to get what's in your lungs out. So it pushes. So, and like I said, if you don't get the air out of your lungs itself, I know it's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird way to say it too. I'm looking for a better way to explain it. I always am when I'm teaching. Uh, if you don't get the air out of your lungs, you just can't make the reed sound full. Uh, so a good way to practice getting air out of your lungs is to run a competition ring, even if you can't do it, because you cannot ring the call with the air out of your mouth. It just won't happen. There's not enough of it in your mouth. But this is a hard thing to learn because almost everything else you do, if you blow out birthday candles, if you almost anything you blow on, put air on it, you're going to blow from your mouth out because you're going to make the air that's in your mouth come out as hard as you can. So it's also similar to actually blowing up a balloon, because you'd never get a balloon blown up if you only use the air in your mouth. So if you'll notice, when you blow up balloons, you start to get sore because you're taking all the air out of your lungs. So as a rule of thumb, anytime you touch a duck call, speck call, goose call, it all runs with pressure out of your lungs. You fill your chest up with air, and then you get ready to push with that diaphragm. So, like I said, you can watch. If you go to YouTube and watch meat contest, every guy is going to do the same movement because it's the same way to get air onto the reed out of your lungs, which another way to say is pressure. So you raise up, and then you're going to watch right here. This is going to start flexing. Even on soft, fine notes, you still have to put the pressure on the reed. So that's the biggest thing I see guys struggle with when we're teaching, and it's a hard thing to learn. It's really hard to wrap your mind around pressure and air volume being different. So the pressure is what makes the rasp. The amount of air coming out is what makes the volume. So you can push the same amount of pressure, but if you let less air out at a time, you'll have a different volume on the call. So if anybody struggles getting it, just hit me up on here, get on our calling page, and I'll be happy to help you out more. It's almost something you have to feel, but after you feel it, then you start, you can replicate it. So that's why the hand over your mouth thing is a good way to start feeling it. Another good way to feel it is on your feed. Most guys at the classes, if they've gotten any kind of feed built up, it's going to be this, which I don't know why. A lot of guys, they like to feed soft, which it doesn't make any sense, because if a duck's feeding, it's an aggressive time in their life. So generally, if a duck's feeding, they're fairly excited. So feeds are not usually soft. You'll hear fine pecks and when they're loafing, but that's not a feed. But generally, when a duck's in with other ducks and they're feeding, that's a spacing sound, and they want the other ducks to know where they're at and to get away from their food. So feed's fairly excited. So a feed also has a lot of pressure. So a good way to start feeling pressure with a feed is you take that sound and you start putting more duck in it, which would be more pressure. So if you take the ticka ticka sound, you start building that up and pushing. That's pressure. That's what will make it sound more like a duck. So if you do that, and then when you put a quack in that sound, you have to push even more with your diaphragm. So that's another good way to feel pressure. Like I said, it'll feel like you're doing sit-ups if you've never done it, and then you go to doing it. Now, where you might run into problems is if you've got a closed throat and you start putting pressure on it, you're going to shoot the tone of the call way up in pitch, or way up in tone. And that'd be more like that. So you got to make sure the throat's open and just out of the way of the lungs. But yeah, the pressure is what puts the duck in it. So again, like I said, if you got that little ticka feed, start putting pressure on it. It's more air, but it's more pressure. Like I said, another good exercise always is ringing a duck call. I know you're not going to do it when you're hunting, but in order to get that sound out to sound full, you have to be using your diaphragm and putting pressure on the reed and have your throat open. So it's a super good exercise to learn. That's why It doesn't matter if you like calling contests or not. Those guys are running the call to the edge of what it can do, but they're also showing that they're putting the proper pressure on it, their throat's open, their tongue's in a good position. Because you can't ring a call without doing that. So that's a great thing to learn. Even I don't care if it sounds like a party horn when you start. It takes a while to learn that. So that's another great way to learn pressure. If you're wanting soft sounds, pressure is still always your friend. I would highly suggest replace the with small duck sounds. So, because like I said, most of the time when ducks are loafing, they're not really chattering. They're doing more like little single cuts and pecks and whatnot. And pressure is still what keeps that sound full. So you can get real soft. But you're pushing just as hard as if you were doing your loudest call. You're just letting a lot more air out. So, if any of you guys, like I said, if you need help on it, we've got a page on here. It's just Ducklander calling page, and you can get on and you can shoot me a video, and I'll shoot you one back. What you're doing wrong, and then how to fix it. So, happy to do it all the time. I check it. I try to check the calling page once a week, twice a week. And then we have calling classes if you're local every Wednesday night, either with the Heartland Waterfowl guys or up at the Rogers store. So, like I said, work on the pressure. If you need to, like I said, cover your mouth so no air can come out, and then blow. Take the call, same movement, and then turn it around, and then do it over and over and over again until you feel like you're getting your body move. You'll know when you're doing it because you can feel your body move. So that's kind of the first way to start building pressure. After you get used to doing it, it becomes less of something you got to think about, and you'll just put pressure on the reed. So like I said, if anybody needs any help, just hit me up. I'm going to get back to making calls.